Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kevin Spencer, and I'm the manager of the Chaska Public Library. Thank you for joining us. This event is part of our Winter Reads author series, and before we go any further, I'm happy and required to share that this program is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, using funds from the Minnesota Legacy Amendment. We're grateful for that support, which allows us to bring authors like tonight's guests to our community. This event is being recorded and the video will be available for about a month on both our Facebook and YouTube pages. At the conclusion of tonight's program, we'll ask you to complete a short survey. The link will be posted in the chat. Your feedback helps inform future programming, and we also welcome anecdotal comments that we can report back to the powers that be. For example, Ian and Katherine completely changed my life. Their books and appearance with Carver County Libraries inspired me to find a cure for foreign accent syndrome. Comments of that nature are always appreciated. Before we get started, I want to give a quick plug for next week's Winter Reads author visit, when we'll be welcoming Mary Lucia, the author of Whatever Doesn't Kill Me Makes Me Weirder and Harder to Relate to, a memoir. When people, Many people know her as a beloved rock DJ, but her memoir explores the darker side of life in the public spotlight, when a connection with a listener turns into a dangerous obsession. On to tonight's headliners. Ian Young is the author of Darkness Unknown, Ashen Light, and The Automaton. The Automaton won the 2023 the Best Indie Book Award for Science Fiction, is also an Indie Brag Medallion honoree. And as an added bonus, yesterday happened to be Ian's birthday, so you are all officially part of a birthday celebration, whether you plan to be or not. On a more personal note, I feel compelled to disclose that I would often see Ian writing in a local Chaska coffee shop, and I can't claim that my proximity to him and his laptop contributed to his success, but I also can't conclusively disprove it. Ian will be joined in conversation by Katherine Kempf, author of the novels Cornish Steel and The Mima Made Solution. The Mima Made Solution was released in 2023 and was a quarterfinalist for the 2023 self-published science fiction competition. Thank you, Katherine, for joining us from Germany in the wee hours of the morning. We're thrilled to have you both here and very excited for the conversation. If you have questions for Ian or Katherine, please type them into the chat at any point during the program. I'll be lurking quietly in the background, monitoring the chat, and will bring your questions forward at the end if time allows. With that, please join me in welcoming Ian and Katherine.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome job.
Um,
Well practiced.
yeah, thank you for the introduction, Kevin, for both Ian and for me. That was unexpected and wonderful. Um, so you mentioned Ian's BIBA award-winning Automaton, his debut novel, and you also mentioned Ashen Light. That's the follow-up in the same world. And Ian also has a living short story collection that he's continually updating. So that's another thing that you can check out by Ian. That's mostly horror, which is a foray into a genre that I don't have much experience with, but I have enjoyed Ian's horror stories, even so. And another publication that you had come out this year, Ian, or last year, rather, was your collaboration with Upscale Games with the exactly very snarky bounty hunting dragon query. And that
Right.
was a wonderful, a wonderful thing to read from you too. Um, so let's start with your debut. How do you usually describe the automaton to new readers?
Uh, the automaton is, in essence, a quintessential AI story where robots take over the earth. And I think the differences, though, is that it's written in a way that's opposite of the trope. It turns the trope upside down. And in a way, it's a good thing.
How would you say it
Um,
turns the trope upside down? Can you elaborate on
well,
that?
usually when you talk about AI and robots taking over the world, that's not usually a good idea or a good thing to happen. But in this book, it's really meant to get us thinking and sort of about our own humanity. And in the end, I tell people, I say, look, there's a lot in this book that shows our darker side of who we are as people. But in the end, it's my love letter to who we are. It shows us, I think, the greatness of who we are as people, as
I
humanity.
you've written XR to be such a compelling character, so that I can see how that you've used the robot to reflect back our humanity to ourselves, and I think that that comes across really, really well.
Yeah. So the main character, um, there's actually a few main characters, but XR29 is sort of the main character, um, who is going through the story of basically humanity's downfall, and we get to see sort of the highlights and lowlights through his eyes.
And this book is actually, well, this book and my book are the reason that we met. Kevin
Right.
mentioned the self-published science fiction competition, which that was the year that my book made it to the quarterfinalists. But most importantly, from that, I also got to get my friendship with you. Um, do you want to
What did
tell
we call
everyone
it?
how we
Yeah. What did we call it? A bond through trauma.
our trauma bond? Yeah, our
Trauma
trauma
bond.
bond.
Yeah, that's what it was. This is this what is it? The self-published science fiction competition is, and I'm sure people are that work there are listening. Um, is this yearly competition where self-published books get science fiction books go in, and it's just horribly run, and it's a nightmare. And basically, people bond just by complaining about why are we doing this to ourselves, and there's usually lots of fights between each other on Discord between judges and authors, and there's usually some bizarre controversies um, that happen. I forget what the big one was when you and I first
Not our
joined.
year. Yeah, I can't
Um,
remember either, but
I, now this year it's finding books that are completely AI written that are getting
hmm.
booted. But I just remember Catherine was in my group, and she got absolutely annihilated by a review. These people have sometimes they have no tact when it comes to writing a review. So they wrote this review for Catherine's book, and it was just rude. It's super, not professional at all, just super rude. And I was just like, hey, people are jerks. Don't worry about it. And Catherine's like, well, I'm going to attach myself to you for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, me too. And
It's been an incredibly fruitful endeavor for both of our writing, I would say.
I think so. And I say this with absolutely no hyperbole that like I have never platonically loved someone more than Catherine.
Well, the
And she
sentiment is
lives
shared.
and she lives in the other side of the world. So at any rate,
Yes, it is weird when we go an entire week and we haven't heard something from one another.
yeah.
Um,
So that's why I
um,
have I have the absolute honor and privilege. And when Kevin gave us the chance to do this, and I said, who runs the show? And he says, well, either I can or a friend of yours. And I'm like, Catherine's doing it. I'm not having anybody else but Catherine. So,
I wouldn't get up at 1:30 in the morning for anybody else.
so yeah, I'm honored and privileged. So thank you, Catherine, so much. Check out her book. Oh God,
Thank you
where
for
did I put it?
asking.
Where did I put it? Oh, please check out her book. It's
Thank you.
awesome. It's absolutely awesome. I love it.
However,
Sorry, go on.
you know that before everything with the self-published science fiction competition, you had already written a Biba award-winning book. So I obviously did not have any influence on that process at all. But can you maybe tell us if anything changed for you as a writer from like before winning the Biba Award to after winning the Biba Award? On a personal level,
It's
professional
yeah,
level?
it's definitely validating. When you traditionally publish something, you have a lot of people that are involved and they're like, this is great, you're doing great. We're gonna sell, we're gonna blah 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 blah. And while self-publishing or indie publishing is not done in a vacuum, there are, I have editors, I have cover artists, I had, especially for Automaton, I had, book design. Uh, I wasn't alone, but the team is a heck of a lot smaller. And when I have people like, say, my wife read my work and she says, well, this is really good. Everybody knows that your spouse is legally obligated to like what you do. So, when she's like, it's really good, I'm just like, yeah, okay, but is it? Is it really good? um, so getting the award was definitely validating, I
Hmm.
think, to um to just kind of show me that what I'm doing is something more than just putting words on paper.
Hmm.
That maybe something was meaningful to it. And if I remember correctly, didn't you say you lost the Biba to someone?
Well, yes, I don't think I made it to the finalists, but I was further along than I had expected to be. So somewhere along the line, yes, I
So
lost to
sorry.
you. I don't think that it would have made a difference,
Yeah,
but that's okay. There will always be other years and other publications
I
because
have a guilt now for that.
oh,
Um,
that's why you keep up the friendship. I understand.
that's right. It's pity. So yeah, it's the validation, I think. As far as does it affect me after getting it, I don't know. I mean, when you're doing a resume for a job, you definitely put in resume boosters, to make yourself look good. And it's definitely that for a book. I mean, when I write a book and I put, author of this and that, people are like, ooh, even if
Yeah,
they're like, I've
yeah,
never heard of Aviva before. It's
yeah.
it's nice, but I don't think it definitely didn't go to my head. I mean, it's not something I
I think
really worry
as
about.
writers, we generally have pretty low self-esteem when it comes to our writing, so that
Holy
makes sense.
cow. Holy cow, it's low.
But obviously something about the automaton and the world that you crafted and the time that you spent there meant something to you because you came back to it for Ash and Light. So is there more than one thing, or maybe just one thing in particular that brought you back to that world that was intriguing for you?
So don't forget, I wrote two short stories that are also
That's
in the
true.
same universe.
That's right. Hmm.
So so I'm going to correct you. Ash and Light is not in the same universe, but it's got the same technology.
Okay, there you go.
It's got the same
Um,
technology. Um, but I'll still answer your question because I still actually went back to it more. Um, the great thing about writing robots for me is that I'm able to basically write like children. I'm able to write like a child or a baby even without the physical limitations. Right.
mhm,
So, they are in an adult world. They have adult jobs or they do adult things, but they're able to look at the world that we do, uh, things that we take for granted and kind of ask questions like why or what are we doing? Um, they're looking through it. And then to flip that, they can also have their own culture. they can have their own ways of doing things. There's a scene in the automaton where the main character, um, XR29, who I don't think this is a huge spoiler, changes his name to Isaac at one point, meets a shopkeeper automaton who's being accosted by a bunch of humans. And, he goes, breaks it up, ends up hurting the humans. They run away. And he goes up to the shopkeeper and he's like, hey, how come you don't fight back? How come you don't try to defend yourself? And at the end, he kind of says something the shopkeeper says something along the lines of like, if I hurt them, I could easily kill them. But if I do that, I'm no better than them. So they're able to have their own different way of thinking and say, uh, and to that point, Isaac says, like, well, don't you want to be like human? I mean, we were built to be like humans. And he's like, no, why would I want to be like a human? I'm not one. I'm an automaton. I want to be like an automaton. And in Darkness Unknown, which is my short story collection, I have a story called Glitchverse. No, Glitchhead. It's also featured in another book, actually, I just got, and now I can't remember the name of my own. Glitchhead, a story from the Atomiverse, which is about sort of like a automatons dealing with a PTSD after this war that they had. And again, they're dealing with it very similarly to humans, but the way that they do it is also incredibly different from humans as well. So very long answer short. It allows me. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
They allow me to both write like a human would and completely opposite of what a human would. Like a child would and like an adult. They give me a lot of leeway when writing a character.
Yeah, that's a really good like a good mechanism for breaking down the world for someone to look at. And I think that's what we do as readers is we use text to reflect back certain things about the world. And if you are able to look at it through the eyes of a child, then you're able to look at it at a way that breaks it down to its barest components and therefore allows you to build on top of that. So I think that might be why the automaton clicks with so many people as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
So you mentioned your short story collection. Let's talk about what inspired the idea to make it a living short story collection.
Yeah, so Darkness Unknown, Tales of the Terrific and Terrifying is short stories. So it's basically every short story that I've finished. I have tons of short stories I haven't finished or haven't published. But it's a living collection, meaning it's an ebook. You buy it once, and every time I write a new story, I'll add it to the file, and then you just re-download the book, and then you get the new file. So you basically buy the book once, and you'll get all my stories until I stop.
Lifetime of entertainment.
Till I die, basically, yeah. And then the plan is that if and when I die, then it'll go into print. And a couple things is, one, as a reader, I would always get confused when I'm like, oh, I want to read an author's short stories. And then you'd go look and it's like they had so many different collections. And I'm like, well, I want one that has this story and this story.
Yeah.
Well, this one has just the one. Okay, well, then I'd have to buy two short story collections. And it just, those short story collections are curated, right? They're curated by an editor. And I'm like, what would be interesting about mine isn't curated in a sense of topic or genres together, because I have some sci-fi and I have
Hmm.
maybe a little fantasy in there, but I put them in there chronologically, in the sense of the first story you read is literally the first story I wrote. Like when I sat down and said, I want to try to be a writer, I want to see if I can do this. The first story you read, that's the one I wrote back
I
in.
think that's a really cool thing to mention about it because that's one of the things that I latched onto when I was reading your short story collection was watching you progress as a writer with throughout this like arc. It doesn't obviously the short story collection doesn't have an arc in a traditional sense, but you get to watch you as the author mature and change your style and try new
Yeah,
things out. And that's the story arc for me as your audience.
yeah. The other thing I'll mention too is that obviously with my books, I have editors, I have um, proofreaders, and all this stuff that go through it. With my short stories, it's very raw. So it's my ideas that come right out. I do my own. I'll have my wife like proofread it or something like that. So yeah, there might be some grammatical stuff or typos and stuff, but it's really meant to be sort of raw, straight from my head. Some of those short stories I literally wrote and posted that day. Some of them I sat with for months.
Mm.
It all depends.
That's
But
pretty honest to our writing process too.
yeah.
Sometimes the story just comes to you complete, and sometimes it really does have to gestate for a little while.
Yeah, or sometimes I experiment. There's one story. Um, Had you make me have to think about everything I've titled? I think We Never Saw Them Coming was one that is very short, but I'm like, I just want to see how detailed I can write. I want to see how much detail I can put it in. Or another one that was the Infinite Shore. Is that the one that's almost poem like? So that was me trying to kind of write a little poetry, but it's also some of my short stories you'll find out are kind of cyclic. I love loops. I love stuff that is sort of endless. Um, Things that don't end but continue on. Um, so
Is that related to how you came up with the idea for Ash and Light then because you wanted to relate back to the automaton again?
you know, so yeah, Ash and Light's a different monster for sure. Um, Ash and Light has automatons in it, but they're not the main characters. And I think I wanted them in there just for some spice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also have some different technology in there um, that they share the same thing. And you could probably chalk that up to me being a lazy writer and not wanting to come up with all new
I
technology
don't
or
know.
something like that. But uh,
I mean, if you put so much time and effort into it, I
thanks. Well,
obviously understand. You don't want to have you don't want to have just done all of that work for one book. That's why my series is a series because I need to use those world building tools as well to get that story out.
you have a different approach in the sense that I mean, this book is not done. This is literally part one. This
Yeah.
chonker right here. Your story is not complete.
Yeah.
This little guy. This is the story.
Yes, but the world
Um,
building behind it is just as chunky as my book.
yes. Okay, that's fair. That is fair.
So I
Totally
understand you
fair.
wanted to stretch those muscles a little bit more with and not just
It's
let them lie after one book.
so yeah. I mean, for me I'm always fighting with myself as a reader, myself as an author. So um, as an author, and you look at people like Brandon Sanderson, right? Or, the writers out there that are like, or oh God, what's his name? Jordan,
Jordan,
J- Robert Jordan, that
is
who
that
did
right?
Wheel of Time.
Yeah, Robert Jordan.
Um, what are they on, like book 15,000 right now?
Well, he
That
passed it
actually
on to Brandon Sanderson, so
exactly,
yeah, because someone
and
had to finish it.
exactly. But as a reader, I'm like, I don't want to touch that because that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah,
And
sure.
when I read The Way of Kings by Sanderson, and I loved it. But then I look at all the other books, and those books are like all of my books plus your book thick.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, holy moly, I can't get all that stuff in there. And so as a author, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write shorter books and I'm gonna keep them contained.
hmm
But you're right in the sense of I don't want to give up my world.
Yeah, sure.
I enjoyed it. I loved being in my world, and
That's
I'm not ready to give up some things. And I will admit that the book that I'm working on, a novel I'm working on now, um, also has automatons in it, and they are much more main characters again.
well, you've got your rule of threes, so now you're working on a third one now.
That's right.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But don't get excited. I don't know when that thing's coming out.
Well, I'll get excited anyway, but that's okay.
Perfect.
Let's then change gears and let's talk about Query a little bit because that was a totally new project for you. That was a new world, that was a new character, that was a new experience.
Yeah.
How did that differ from writing your other stuff?
Um, yeah. So a little background. I was at Quantum Con, which is this super tiny convention in Maple Grove, I think it was. And I want to say I sold like two books, maybe one book. Um, it was an experience for sure for an indie author. Anyway, there was a group of guys who make a card game called um, um, I'm so glad it's Upscale Games, but they made Scale Rise of Dragons. There it is. And so I went to their booth. I like card games. I like games. Um, I sat down. I played it with them, and I'm like, all right, this is pretty fun. You can go on Discord. You can play the game online with them. Sweet, I did it. They're great guys. I start talking to them. I'm like, hey, I'm a writer. Um, what are the chances you guys want a novelization? And they're like, if you're serious, we'll be serious. And I'm like, okay. So within a couple of days, I had a contract, and um, for better and for worse, I was like, what do you want it about? How long do you want it? When do you want it? They said, go through the deck, pick a character you want, write a story.
For the record, you picked a really good character.
I love Query. Query is a bounty hunter dragon who is a dragon who he's well, I wish I had his car. Well, I have his picture, I suppose, on the book. He's on the is the main guy on the cover there. That's Query. So he's bipedal. He thinks he's a lot better than he really is at his job. Excuse me. But he's a character that I got to put a lot of myself into, just as the humor part of it. Um, I'm obviously not a bounty hunter, and I'm not saving the world like he is. But as far as the snarkiness and some of the jokes and that sort of thing, I was able to do that. And I was like, do you guys want this to be very serious and like a fantasy novel and that sort of thing? Um, they're like, well, here's some of the other projects we're working on, and I got some behind the scenes look at it, and I'm like, this is the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, that's that's the that's the standard. And they're like, yep. I'm like, all right. So
Run
I
with
was
it.
run with it. Exactly. So I was able to make it. It's absolutely doesn't take itself seriously until it does. Um,
Very
so
unexpectedly sneaks up on you.
it does. You know, the thing about it too is that you don't necessarily need to know how to play the game to enjoy it. Uh, I definitely think playing it, if you like games like Magic the Gathering and stuff, like get the game. It's super awesome. You don't have to, it's, there's no endless cards you have to buy. It's one deck. You can go online. It's just go to www.upscale.games if they'll allow me to plug them, or go to my website and you can find a bunch of stuff too. If they have to edit that out. Anyway, uh, but yeah, just a totally different character. I found that when I first started writing, the goal was always like, if I could write a book and people go, I was entertained. Thanks, Ian. Like I would be happy. And then I realized after doing Automaton and even National Light, I was like, geez, I really had like a message that I was saying.
Mm-hmm. That you
Query.
were trying to get across.
Yeah, Query and Seeker of Absolution is definitely like, no, I just want to entertain you.
Well, I
There's
laughed.
there's
And I don't laugh usually out loud when I'm reading things, but I
you
definitely
don't
laughed
you
when I
don't
was reading
laugh
it.
ever. You're incredibly serious.
Right, right. That's how you get through the day with two small children by being
That's right.
incredibly serious. What do you think that Query would want to ask you if he was doing this interview right now?
Oh God, probably why did you put me through all of this?
That's an excellent question.
Why? What did I ever do to you? Uh, you know, sorry, buddy. You're cool. You're an interesting dude. You're cool. So I had to choose you.
Are you going to continue writing characters from the world, or is that on the hush hush, or
I am currently under contract to write a follow up. I am so you know there is a whole universe that they have created. My
mm-hmm,
book, my little so this is technically a novella. It's that short. It's this little guy is a sliver of this entire universe that they've created. In the game, they have two version or what do they call them, sets now of the game. So two
okay,
decks of cards that you could play. It's the same game
mm-hmm,
with little tweaks. Um, it's all part of this big, giant, grand universe. And on the one hand, it was really cool that I got to play in their universe and I got to create some things and add it to their canon. And then uh, on the other hand, like there's a lot of times they're like, you can't do that. Nope, nope, you don't do that. Um, so they were like, yeah, do you want to? We've gotten great reviews from friends and people who bought it. We want to do another one. Do you want to do, here's all these other characters you could do. There's all these different creatures you could do. And I said, nope, I'm Query forever.
good, good.
And I'm like, I don't care if he's stuck doing side quests. I'm doing Query forever. So he's my guy.
I'm happy to hear that. Um, let's switch gears again a little bit. I want to ask you less about the stuff that you've worked on and a little bit more about like being an indie author,
Yeah.
especially maybe leaning towards if somebody in the audience is also like has a little idea and they're not sure if they want to get started writing and stuff like that. So, how does being an indie publisher or being an indie author, how does that foray into the publishing world? Like, how does that help you creatively to do indie as opposed to trad or traditional
Yeah.
publishing?
I was going to say, us indie people use trad
Yeah,
instead
sorry.
of, instead of traditional. So the biggest thing that I'll unveil, and I literally just told someone else about this today because they were getting some negative comments um, on Reddit. people need to understand that traditional publishing isn't about weeding out the best books and publishing them. It's about weeding out the most marketable books,
Hmm.
the ones that will sell the most, because it's about money.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
That is
about money. They
pulling back
put
the curtain for sure.
correct publishers, agents want your book. Now, look, I'm not saying that they're, these like money grubbing little goblins, but they
It's a
have jobs.
business.
It's a
Yeah.
business, right?
They
Their
have to
job
run
is
their
to make
business.
the agent's job is to sell your manuscript to a
Hmm.
publisher, and the publisher's job is to create a book out of it and then to market it to recoup the money that they put into your book and then make even more. And then they give you that much. Um, Now, also understand I'm not poo-pooing traditional publishing. I tried it. I When I first wrote Automaton, I can't tell you how many query letters I sent out to agents, and some of them were super great. David Fugate is the agent for Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian and Project Hail Mary, and he reached back and was like, "Hey, man, great idea, not for me. Best of luck to you." And we were able to kind of communicate a little bit. Other people give you the canned response less than 24 hours saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't for me. Thank you. Bye." It's incredibly humbling. Um, this is the part where they tell you that writers need to have thick skin. And let me tell you that no writer
Nobody
has,
has.
nobody
No
has
one.
thick skin. We are the
Yeah.
most sensitive crybabies you will ever meet, and we will feel awful for getting a rejection letter. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, um,
That's why we have to make friends with other authors, so we have somebody's
we
shoulder to
you
cry
gotta
on.
you gotta commiserate.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know
with
if I knew that you reached out to Annie Ware's agent though. That's really interesting.
I was hoping that he was my best bet. He wasn't the one that I had my hopes on.
Mm.
Unfortunately, she was closed for queries, but and keep in mind for those who don't know, query is like, think of it like a cover letter for a resume, where it's like
Hmm.
this letter that says, "Hey, here's who I am, here's what the book's about, here's why I'm the best person to write the story, and here's why you should pick me."
Hmm.
And then if an agent is like, "Okay," they'll ask for like, "Give me," and then sometimes you send them like the first 3 pages, the first 100 words, the first, I think, England.
Chapter.
Yeah, and I sent a bunch
Yeah.
to in the UK, and they were like, "Send me the first half of the book." They wanted a ton to read, and then in the
Oh,
US,
nice.
they're a lot. They're like, "Give me the first 2 words, and I'll tell you." You know, it was ridiculous. Um, and then they'll ask for more to read, and then they'll make their final decision. And
Yeah. And
also keep in mind,
sh
sorry, go on.
the agents shop your books to the publishing houses.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah.
and agents get hundreds, if not thousands, of queries when they're open for
Hmm.
them, and they maybe pick 3 or 4 projects a year.
Hmm.
It's a crapshoot. So with indie, oh, and one more thing actually with trad, what they'll do is you'll say, "Hey, here's my manuscript," and they're like, "Cool. Here's how we're going to change it to make it even more marketable." I talked to a guy once who we were both, again, because we're thin-skinned crybabies, um, lamenting about getting rejected. And this one guy I met on Instagram was like, "Yeah, it went as far as talking to an agent, and the agent was like, I think it was a spy novel, and the agent's like, this is actually going to be better as a pirate book."
Oh gosh.
It was something so so bizarre of a jump like that. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
no.
It's not the book.
So the reason why I'm saying all this about traditional publishing is that indie publishing is the exact opposite.
It bypasses all of that.
It's the exact opposite. So um, you get to write the story you want to write. So I usually think of indie authors as people who have a story to tell. So, for instance, Catherine, my dear, Mimamide, when did you first start thinking about that?
I I probably thought about it as early as 18.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you were an 18-year-old, and do the quick math. How old were you when you published it?
Um,
29,
30,
30,
29,
30?
30. I can't
Okay.
remember exactly.
All right. So I just aged you, so I apologize. I just dated you for everybody. Sorry. Um, uh, we have a mutual friend who her story, her series, started off as a screenplay and morphed into a book series. I've known people, another mutual friend of ours who has been talking about this, uh, or has a story in her head since she was in high school. I mean, it's all people with stories, and they have to
Mhm.
get them out.
Mhm.
And the best way for them, they don't have animation skills, they don't have drawing skills, they're not going to make a movie, they're not going to make a show, they're not going to make a, I don't know, claymation or whatever. Uh, Even indie films are expensive. The best is to write,
Mhm.
and there's something incredibly special about that. So when I'm reading your writing, I'm reading something that's incredibly special to you, which therefore makes it incredibly special to me. Um, I can choose everything about my story. I have full creative say. I have full creative say on the cover.
Mhm.
So, um, my buddy Mike and I, we designed the cover. My buddy Mike and I, we designed the cover. Me and the game people, we designed the cover. It's awesome. There are times, his name is Michael A. Stackpole. He is an author of tons of books. He wrote a bunch of X-Wing books, Star Wars X-Wing books back in the day. He had a podcast years and years and years ago that I listened to, and he talked about, you'd put your book in, and the people that designed the cover wouldn't even read your book; they'd get a little synopsis. And he said there were times he would get the cover back, and he's like, "You understand that this is a major spoiler that you just put on the cover, right?" He's like, we can't do this."
We can't do that.
And then sometimes they're like, "Too bad, we're not paying for it again." Um, so if you want and you desire and you need creative freedom and control, indie is 100% the way.
Mhm.
I chose after traditional publishing didn't work out and I decided to do it my own. I never once looked back. I will never do trad again, or try to do trad, I should say. The the fraction of money you get per sale
Mhm.
is so much bigger than you get per trad.
Yeah.
Um, Now the only difference is that with traditional publishing, you get things called advances where they're like, okay, here's $5,000, start writing,
Yeah.
or we're going to start marketing. You don't get those.
Yeah.
You're poor. You're poor. I'm
Yeah.
poor. This is not my house. I'm borrowing a friend's house. No, it's my house. Anyway, it's tough like that, and you have to be your own boss. So I have to
Yeah.
find my own editor, and editors are expensive.
Yeah.
You got to find your own book cover artist. You got to find your own proofreaders. And did you know that there's multiple kinds of editors? There's developmental editors and copy editors and proofreaders and line editors, and
And you have
there's
to
a
fit that
lot.
all into the budget of somebody who doesn't have a budget.
Right. But
But
there
it's
is
worth it.
there, you know what? When you open the box and you pull your book out and you hold it and you see words on it that you've written, and you see words inside of it that you're like, oh my God, this is a book. And you're like, this is a story. And you get to go to conventions and say, hey, you sell it and
Hmm.
someone buys it. And then you get a good review where they let you know, wow, I loved this book.
Hmm.
It's a feeling that doesn't,
And you
it's
really had
amazing.
you touched it from the very first moment of inception until you were along the way for every single step because, like you said, you're your own boss.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's something that that your readers might be surprised to learn about your artistic process when you're going through all of that?
Uh, I am what is known in the industry as a pantser. So there's two main types of writing where there's a planner where you write an outline, you have the entire story figured out, and then you just sit down and write it all out. And then there's a pantser where you're like, I have a concept of a story. I have an idea. I'm going to start writing and see where it goes. I'm the second one. I get ideas, I get thoughts. Um, in Automaton, there are three main ideas for the story, a beginning, middle, and end. The book isn't
Hmm.
split that way. The book is split into little vignettes,
Right.
but there's three main parts to it. I had the
Hmm.
idea of those parts. That's all I had. But I sat down and started writing. And uh, pantsing is incredibly rewarding because my characters do things I do not expect. Things happen in my writing I'm not ready for.
I heard it described as discovery writing, and I feel like that I relate to that
Yes,
a lot because I absolutely need to discover things before the entire story reveals itself. Because
there's
sometimes it's
yeah,
a rabbit hole that I don't end up using.
yeah, and this isn't a spoiler to my work at all or your work, but there's times when you're writing and you go, "Oh my God, this person dies here."
Yeah.
If there's a battle,
Hmm.
you go, "Oh my God, they don't survive."
There's no way.
Yeah, and you that's and some of the times that's where twists come.
Hmm.
That's where some of my twists come. They're not planned. I'm just writing, and all of a sudden I go, "Oh dang!"
That's a great moment usually.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry
getting
that
it
it.
with you too. Um, but the problem with pantsing is that writer's block is huge.
Hmm.
And you're going to hear people that are like, writer's block is a myth, doesn't exist. You just got to keep writing. Other people are like, it's a thing. You do whatever you want. For me, it's a thing because I don't want to write stuff that I'm going to have to delete. I'm a lazy writer. So with Ash and Light, I started writing this in the middle of writing Automaton. I published this 3 years later. So that tells you the giant chunk I had of time
Hmm.
where I didn't know how to finish it.
Yeah, I think that's been my experience too with writer's block is that when I meet that point in my writing where I just literally can't get any more words out. It's usually a knot that needs to be untangled. But I have to go off and do something else, whether
Yeah,
that's writing a different scene or reading a book or something like that to sort of tease the knot out because I'm clearly not at the point that I need to be in order to continue writing or the words. And once the knot gets pulled on a little bit, then the words come back.
there's advice that I heard, and I can't remember. I want to say Stephen King. Um, which he wrote a book called On Writing. And if you haven't read it, it's an amazing
Mm,
book. Um, but one thing I learned is that stories need to be shared. And if you have it in you and you tell someone, you're going to get the same um, like reward that you would as if you had them read it. And if you tell it to them, the energy you have to write it goes away. So you don't want to tell people about your story.
mhm.
However, I have to have a few people that I tell my story to because I get stuck.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's times when I like call you up and I'm like, "Hey,
Right.
Catherine, do you care if I ruin something for you?"
Yeah,
And you're like, "Yeah, I suppose." And I'm like, "Okay, well, this happens, and now I don't know what to
yeah.
do." Right? Or there's times when you send me
Absolutely.
something and you're like, "Ian, this is absolutely raw vomit words, but what do I
Help.
do?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, but you need those people and you need those times just to be able
Yeah.
to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I don't want to end our time without talking about what's been going on in Minneapolis recently, since you're right outside of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So I am curious how politics in general, and then specifically what's been going on influences your writing and your world building and how you approach your artistic endeavors.
So, um, if you've read The Automaton, it's scary close to what's going on to the point where I feel like I'm a little scared. Um, I don't feel like I did anything unique when it comes to my timelines of things that happen in The Automaton. I feel like that's anything, any other book, 1984 or V for Vendetta, um, that talk about these sort of rise to fascism uh, that have happened in the past, continuing to happen. Um, I don't feel like I've done anything special there, but it's odd that sometimes I always find these politics, and I want to make a distinction here that politics have morphed into morality. Um, for me, politics used to mean diplomacy or economics policy or you know what do we do about the Federal Reserve or blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's politics.
Yeah.
Legislation, that's laws, that's politics. And slowly it's turned into how we treat each other,
Yeah.
how we treat each other as human beings, which I
Hmm.
just don't understand. And that is how I find myself writing, is how we treat each other as human beings, because that is
Yeah.
something that the complete lack of empathy boggles my mind.
Hmm.
I just I don't understand how we can look at other people and not feel anything. I don't understand it. I just don't.
Yeah.
How it's
Yeah.
going to sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. Keep going.
How it's going to affect my writing in the future, I don't know yet. The fact of the matter is that with things going on as they are, I'm not writing at the moment. I can't write.
Hmm.
I don't have the energy. I don't have the mental capacity to write at the moment. The way things are going on, um, there is only so much energy I have, and um, unfortunately, I'm putting it towards mental survival. Um, the same thing happened
Yeah.
during 2020. I didn't write a single word during COVID. I didn't write a single word. That was a full year I took off from writing. Um,
I think art steps in at some point in that process. So, um, at some point you'll hopefully, have enough space again to begin processing everything that's happening through your written word.
yeah, absolutely. I hope so. I know that's how I'm going to process it.
Mm,
Once it happens, once I get the ability to,
hmm.
um, things are just a little too near
Well,
right
I
now.
like what I like the way that you put it. Um, I've actually read this from a different perspective. It was a child psychology that one of the best things you can do to teach your children empathy when they're really, really small is to read to them. Because reading teaches empathy. Reading teaches you to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. So I feel like there's more overlap between reading and writing and what you talked about, morality and empathy, than we give credit to.
Mm, like that.
I think that's a good note.
Guys, I'm gonna cut in here. I think that's a good place to leave
Yeah.
it. I just have one question that's related to what you just said. Um, let's say you go to the library and you need to be inspired. Are there authors that you would choose that you find inspirational that maybe they kind of pushed you down the road toward writing just in general from the very beginning?
I will say Isaac Asimov, the king of science fiction, 100% got me going. 100%. I read Foundation and I never looked back. Just not even what the story's about, just how it was written. I read it and I never looked back. Dan Simmons's Hyperion is another book that influenced me as far as my writing goes. His it's called the Cantos, it's 4 books, but just his first book, Hyperion, is considered up there with Frank Herbert's Dune as one of the greatest science fiction books ever written.
How about you, Catherine?
I came to science fiction a little bit later as an adult. So I would say when I was younger, the books that really just like fed my like that need to write were more historical fiction. I read a lot of Philippa Gregory when I was growing up. But I would say the like gateway sci-fi book for me was the Red Rising series. And I just devoured them. I couldn't believe that you could write something like this. And so that's sort of just like, I mean, since then I've read much more science fiction and come to realize that that is a language that I definitely speak. But yeah, that was sort of my gateway drug.
Great. You guys, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of you joining us and sharing a little bit of your soul with us and your stories, and just a million thanks. And also want to remind everyone that if you could please respond to the survey, it gives us so much information. And like I said, those anecdotal comments are precious to us as well. So thank you, the two of you. And
Thank you,
Ian, happy
Kevin.
birthday. Catherine,
Thank
Yes.
you.
good night, Catherine. You can go to bed now.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, everybody.